Hi, I'm Kayla Hathaway, a partner here at Cimpatico Studios. Cimpatico is a platform dedicated to cultivating conversations and actions on complex social issues with professionals all around the world. On the Climate EDU channel, I interview academics about university programs, careers, research, internships, and published literature like books and papers. If you're interested in being a guest, we'd love to hear from you. And now, on to today's show. And good afternoon, everyone, from California. I'm your host, Kayla Hathaway, and today I'm joined by the incredible researcher, Colin Evans. He is a fourth-year PhD candidate studying atmospheric science at Cornell University, and he holds a MS in atmospheric science from the University of Massachusetts, Lowell, and his research focuses on the dynamics of drought in the Northeast and Southwest United States. In this episode, he's going to be talking about his research surrounding several atmospheric phenomena in the Southwest, about ENSO, difference between La Nina and El Nino, as well as the teleconnections between ENSO and the Southwest. Colin, thank you so much for joining me on this Wednesday. Thank you.
Absolutely. Real pleasure to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I kind of gave like a little introduction, but if you want to go ahead and just tell us a bit more about like your education, like why you're in this field, and like what makes it special to you.
Yeah, so I think like a lot of climate students, I've been fascinated by weather for a long time. As a kid, I love thunderstorms. Was always
Oh
curious
yeah.
about how they formed and stuff. And then I went to undergrad, like you said, Wells College, did environmental studies. And what happened was during my junior year, I had a conflict, so I couldn't take a required course. So I ended up taking an independent study in planetary sciences. And
Ooh.
what I was really interested in most was the atmospheres of the different planets and just how different they are and what happens on the planets because of them. And so then I started looking for atmospheric science programs. Um, Took a gap year and then did my master's in Lowell. Um, then really took a couple years to work and just figure out what I wanted to pursue PhD wise. Because obviously, as many of you I'm sure know, it's a big commitment.
Yeah.
Um, and that brought me to Cornell, where my advisor, Toby Alt, was doing a lot of drought research. And that's what I was wanted to focus on because it's something that doesn't get a lot of attention here in the Northeast where I am, even though it does happen and it can have some pretty bad consequences.
Yeah, I remember when I was looking like into your studies and realizing that wait, the Northeast also has drought. Like, cause
Yeah.
you only hear about like, oh, the big blizzards and oh no, the rain, but never like, oh, it's actually a drought and it's pretty
Hmm.
bad.
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, and man, so independent study. So I'm curious, what did you think about were you able to study Venus a little bit for that?
Yes. And I love that you brought that up because it's my favorite go to for when people question whether carbon dioxide can really affect our atmosphere. Because I tell them, or first I ask, what do you think would be the hottest planet in the solar system? And a lot of people will say, well, Mercury, because it's closest to the sun. And conventional wisdom would say, sure. But that's actually not the case because of Venus. Its atmosphere is something like 98% carbon dioxide. So
Oh
it has this
God.
runaway greenhouse effect
Hmm.
where it has surface temperatures almost 900 degrees Fahrenheit,
Oh my God.
right? Like unbelievably hot. So, yes, us emitting carbon dioxide on the planet here will result in increasing temperatures.
Venus V2.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Hopefully not. We're on easy mode. We can go and we can probably fix this with a few patch updates.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so to go ahead and jump right on into it, for those that might have not really heard of like what ENSO is, could you go and give us a brief description and like how this also like affects the weather, like the correlation between that?
Yeah, absolutely. So ENSO stands for El Nino Southern Oscillation. So it's actually a atmosphere ocean coupled system. So there are changes to sea surface temperatures in the Pacific, and there's changes to sea level pressure. And that index is usually between Tahiti and Darwin, Australia. So what happens in an El Nino is a huge area, we'll call it a blob, off the coast of South America in the Pacific gets anonymously warm. And so what that does is it changes the center of convection in the Pacific, which changes the jet streams and affects global weather. So for example, when an El Nino happens, the following winter, we might see more rain to the southwest US. Now, in the opposite case, La Nina, anonymously cold sea surface temperatures on the Pacific, the opposite would happen in the southwest, and we would see it getting drier. And actually, right now, we are in a La Nina is present and forecasted to continue throughout the winter. So it'll be interesting to see if the southwest gets even less rain than it usually would, which is terrible timing because the entire southwest is in a dreadful drought and really needs some rain.
Yeah, we're literally on fire too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, so how do we even how do you study this? To go and like look at like these weather patterns, or like it also seems like climate models are involved. How is this research conducted, and what are like kind of the results that you get from it, and like why do they matter?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's difficult because conventionally there are three ways we can study something, right? We can look at the observations we have, we can use global climate models, or we can look at paleoclimate record. Now, in this case, observations aren't a great option because we only have like good sea surface temperature records back to about 1880, 1900, something like that. So that would give us only, ENSO happens on a 2 to 7 year cycle.
Okay.
It's quite unpredictable. So I mean, what, like 15 high amplitude events in that time frame? It's not a lot to give us a good indication of what's actually happening in that system.
Mhm.
GCMs, on the other hand, we can run for a long period of time, but each individual GCM that we use may or may not actually have that teleconnection in it. So when we try and study the teleconnections within the models, they're all over the place. You might have one model that says, yes, every time El Nino happens, you're going to get extra rain to the southwest. Whereas some models will say that will never happen, right? So that there's a lot of variability there. And then with the paleoclimate record, it's difficult because the index we use for El Nino is a box. It's called Nino 3.4, and it's from 5 degrees south to 5 degrees north and 120 west to 170 west. So it's just a small box in the Pacific Ocean. There aren't really any islands there. So there's no coral reefs. So there's no way to get proxy records for that region. So we don't have accurate paleoclimate records for that specific region. And then for the Southwest, what we use for paleoclimate records are generally trees. The Southwest has some really long-lived tree species. And so we can drill tree bores and count the rings and determine age and usually soil moisture conditions from that. But the further back in time you get, the less trees there are that are of an age where you can get further back in time.
Yeah.
So paleoclimate's out. So observations are out, GCMs are out, paleoclimate's out. So the method we've developed is what we call a linear inverse model.
Okay.
And basically all it is we take the observations we do have, put them into this mathematical model, and just propagate it forward through time. And so we're just running a statistical model basically.
Oh,
So
okay.
now we have this whole ensemble of possibilities where we can calculate the teleconnection between El Nino events and Southwest drought conditions, um, solely based on the inherent statistics found within the observational system. And that's basically how we do this.
And so it sounds like teleconnection, it's just, um, or I'm not gonna even guess on this one, but like, could you explain like what a teleconnection is?
Yeah, so I was mentioning how when an El Nino happens, what we consider typically may happen is that it will bring additional rain to the Southwest because of the changing weather patterns. So that's the teleconnection. So what we're trying to figure out is how variable is that teleconnection strength?
Okay, okay. And they're not like guaranteed.
Exactly.
Okay.
So like for right now, we know where there's an La Nina present. So like if you're a water resource manager in the Southwest, you know there's a La Nina. Do you plan for restricting water because La Nina would actually decrease precipitation in the Southwest? What do? And so we're trying to figure out, okay, well, how strong and how variable are these teleconnections?
Got it. Okay. And then it's through your statistical model that you're able to go and do predictions in order to have a better.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's great about it is that we can run 100 realizations of it, each 1,000 years long,
Oh my
with
gosh, that
with
long.
monthly values. Yeah, in like 30 minutes, because it's all just a statistical model. Whereas running a GCM that long, I don't even know. It would be a
Mhm.
long time, weeks and weeks to run a GCM for that long.
The wonders of like just advanced technology.
Yeah.
I'm just here like, dang, how many processors do you need to go and like run put those models together? Um, so we mentioning a bit earlier that there's the La Nina like going on in the Southwest, and we're definitely feeling it. um, and I'm curious, like you said that it impacts rainfall, but is can the La Nina also impact like snow and the how, like what our winters will look like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as those images are scrolling through, I believe one will show what the winter La Nina pattern would look like. So in addition to a drier southwest, we might see a wetter northeast, a colder midwest, and a wetter Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And then basically all of those would be reversed with a El Nino.
So then it would be a wetter southwest, drier Pacific Northwest,
Yep, exactly.
drier northeast, and
Yeah.
wetter. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And when was the last time that we had El Nino? Is that
We had a pretty strong one in 2015, 2016, and it did not bring any additional rain to the southwest, which then just plunged further into a drought.
it had one job
Yep.
and it failed? Oh no. Oh my gosh. Okay. Um so like I'm just still just here like shake my head. You literally had one job, El Nino, but okay. So with it being the in the 2 to 7 year I forget the word you used, but like the or cycle, the 2 to 7 year cycle. So
Mhm.
is that like the gap in between, or are we saying that's how long it lasts for?
No, that's the gap in between.
Okay.
Yep. Generally, they last 3 to 4 months, maybe a couple of seasons. Um, yeah, they're not long-lived events, but the variability in them is 2 to 7 years.
Got it. And does this have any impact on Eastern Pacific cyclone formation?
Eastern Pacific cyclone formation. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Okay.
It
Because
definitely has like global impacts, but specifically as far as cyclone formation, I'm not sure.
okay. Yeah, I just asked because like we've had what was it Dorian? And like there's just been there's a couple cyclones forming or flat form that like were kind of by Baja California and everything like that. So I was like, oh, I wonder if this like La Nina event might be impacting that. But
Hmm.
I'm gonna be talking to Jordan tomorrow. She's the cyclone person, so I'll be like,
Great.
hey, so
Awesome.
what is this? um, okay, so a question from Mike. He's asking, what kinds of effects does an El Nino or La Nina have on the storm seasons over the plains? Does this increase the severity of thunderstorms and tornadoes?
So with an El Nino, the jet stream is going to move further south than usual. So the plains um, might actually miss some of those storms they normally would have. Whereas
Okay.
it would bring uh, wetter um, air through the southwest. So you might see more severe thunderstorms in places like Louisiana, Tennessee, the Carolinas, something like that.
Okay. And so El Nino would mean maybe less tornadoes. Maybe.
Potentially.
Potentially. And then La Nina would be potential increase as it's the opposite.
Yeah, the jet stream would be shifted further north, so you're getting more storm tracks through the through the Great Plains.
Okay. And does this have effect on the blizzards? Or is that a
Yeah,
completely different? Okay.
no, it definitely would because you'd be bringing in really cold air from like Canada
Mhm.
with a La Nina.
Oh god. Oh wait. So then this winter might be hard for the where's that? Northeast
Potentially. Yeah,
potentially.
yeah,
Yikes. Start naming all these. I mean, we started recently naming blizzards, didn't we? Like a
yeah.
couple of years
Winter
ago.
storms. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're so strong that they need a name, but clearly everything is totally 100% a-okay.
oh yeah,
Yes.
yep, just fine.
So it's just a little stronger over winter. No problem, Colin. It's okay. Oh man. Like I love just hearing so many of these like, oh, it's just a hot like summer, no biggie. And it's like this is the hottest summer it's been.
September 2020, hottest September we have on record.
Yeah, I think what was it, Death Valley got up to
130.
like I can't
Yeah.
even imagine. I went hiking in Death Valley in March of 2019. And even then that was still like warm. So I can't imagine like what summer temperatures. No, like no thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't be surprised if I don't think 2020 will hit the hottest year, but second or third would be my guess at this point,
Yeah.
based on how the last few months have been.
Mhm. And makes me curious about the biodiversity. Like you have like the desert plants like Joshua trees and everything like that. I'm just like I wonder what their temperature threshold is going to be, especially if we have like more persistent like
Heat waves and
heat waves. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so I'm not sure how to like really phrase this question, but it's like that. So like with the changing climate, would we expect to see more La Ninas or more El Ninos?
Ah,
Is what I'm trying to grasp at. Like more dry here or more wet here?
that is a phenomenal question that many people are trying to answer.
Okay.
There are a number of recent studies looking at GCMs and trying to figure out what is ENSO going to do in future warmer climates.
Mhm.
Um, there is no answer
Okay.
currently to that. It's varied based on models, like I was talking about before. The models handle ENSO differently, so we're not sure.
Okay. So it sounds like the goal is to just not get there, which is
It's like dealing with the devil you know instead of the one you don't
yeah.
kind of situation. Yeah.
Uh, I have a comment from Doug here. It's like we haven't had any rain here in Tucson in a month. Our monsoon season this summer has been a disaster. Is there anyone I can sue?
Exxon, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're in their second or third court case,
Yeah,
something like
that's
that.
not surprising.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that it's even it's having to go into multiple court cases, but you know, money talks.
But yeah, I've been keeping up with the U.S. drought monitor, and the Southwest is just
We need help.
awful.
Like,
I mean, you look at the whole U.S. and it's almost half the country is in some sort of drought condition.
yeah. It has me really wondering about the future of agriculture, especially since we already have the issues with overuse of soils and fertilizers and everything like
Yeah,
that. And I'm here like, well, if it continues to stay dry, like certain plants are just gonna stop.
yeah,
They're gonna be like, I'm done, no more, end this suffering.
yeah. I don't know what it's like in the plains, but in New York, uh, something like 90% of the crops are all rain fed.
Oh
So
man.
if we have a even a seasonal, spring summer drought, it's terrible for agriculture here.
Hmm.
Um, 2016 was the most recent really bad one, and New York alone lost something like $1 billion
My
in lost revenue because of that. This is just a seasonal spring summer drought.
God. Hmm. Yikes. And so I have a question from Mike. I mean, saying living in Tennessee in the past 5 years, precipitation got really out of control. Lots of flooding, way more rain than they were used to. Could this be related to what's happening in the Southwest?
So that's a attribution study question.
Attribution study?
Yes. So attribution studies are a really cool part of climate science where they look at specific either areas or specific climate events
Okay.
and determine if they can attribute any of the severity to climate change.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know specifically about Tennessee, but what I will say is that we know climate change is making our weather more extreme and more unpredictable. Is that less predictable, more unpredictable? Either way, more erratic, basically, right? We're getting larger variations in the
Yeah.
extremes.
Yeah, definitely feeling that. I mean, that's something where like living in the same place for the past 24 years and just noticing like, oh, the weather is significantly different than what it was when I was in middle school. And it's like
Yeah,
it's
it's
it's it's
it's
crazy.
observable even on our timelines, which is frightening. Frightening.
Yeah.
When
But
you look at like the Keeling curve, the daily CO2 concentrations, and their graph that includes the ice core record going back 800,000 years,
mhm.
and you just see it's just a straight line from the Industrial Revolution because we have added so much so quickly.
Yeah. But that's why, you're doing what you're doing, I'm doing what I'm doing, and we have these kinds of conversations because, like, the moment we stop talking about it, like, that's endgame.
Yeah,
And it's been incredible to be able to have the opportunity to speak to people like you that are just out there doing the nitty-gritty research.
yeah.
And your field is important and you matter, and thank you for studying this.
Thank you. That does mean a lot because a lot of times it's people who think we're just wasting our time and have no idea what we're talking about, even though we spend years and years studying it. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like a whole other, that could be like a whole other episode, just talking about like how like science communication and everything is just completely like
absolutely. If you want me back, I'd love to do that. I do a lot of try to do a lot of public engagement on climate change.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Like my you have my link so you can go and just be like, "Hey, I want to come on again next week or whenever." I'll be like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah.
So, the first episode's always the the hardest one, and then all the future ones, it's just like, hey, Kayla, are you free like Monday? I'm like, okay, sure, I'll be there.
Nice.
Cool. I'm gonna run the end credits, and we're just gonna roll back into just chatting. So give me one moment.
Okay.